Overdrive active.
Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign and today we're going to go over the update preview for November 11th so I can let you know what's coming, what's going to be changed, what really doesn't matter, and what actually is bad changes, whereas there are some things that I would say should be changed to other things. So let's just go through what they've said in this update. They've said, in our upcoming November 11th update, we have added additional balance changes, encounters, contracts, and PvE difficulty changes. And you can see below for the specific content. Now, if you want to read this yourself, it is up on their Twitter, on their Facebook. It's in the Discord under the announcements channel, so please take a look at that. The Discord link for the official Eve Echoes Discord is in my description. If you'd like to go in there, I'll also put it in the comments for you. They have gone on to say that the details of the update were a combination of all the great feedback and a lot of the data we've been collecting these past few months. We will be applying several balance changes. These are meant to both allow players to progress further in PvE encounters at a better pace, to improve the experience with progression in difficulties while creating a more realistic universe with NPC actions and difficulty. Now for me, that's amazing. I've been getting bored out of my mind. A lot of, as you know, a lot of the fits that I've been putting out have been semi-AFK, where I just have to kill the frigates and the destroyers first, and then I can go on to just AFK the rest of the anomaly itself. They've talked about balancing all of this, and with the new modules added, we have also further balanced ship roles. We hope this will provide a more exhilarating experience as we will go forward together in making the universe more realistic and fun for all. So let's go through the module balancing. So they're going to be changing the small snub-nose ray gun optimal range to 20% and the accuracy fall off by 20%. This will help out a lot of those faction frigates. This will help out some of the smaller ships that were having a bit of trouble with their range and actually being far weaker range-wise than the rest of the weapons. Now we have small laser, railgun, and cannon damage multipliers by 10%. That gives you 10% more damage on all of your frigates and destroyers with the lasers, railguns, and cannons. It's another good addition. Small missile launcher flight time minus 20%. Now I'm not really sure why this one was changed. I didn't see much of an issue with the small missiles. Granted, there were things like we were using small missile launchers on our bombers that were applying much better and higher damage to anything below a BC. It actually did more damage than a 555 torpedo fit bomber. So this may change things a little bit. So small torpedo launchers flight time plus 20%, so they will be able to shoot a little further. Medium laser, railgun, and cannon damage multiplier by 5%. Okay, if you've seen my Cinnable video with the nearly 1400 DPS with a tank and not just stacking DPS modules, you'll see that the cannon damage multiplier might be a bit of a weird addition. Granted, the lasers and the railguns did need a little bit more love, but I don't see why the cannons did. The medium beam laser tracking velocity by 20%. This was needed. The beam lasers, even though they have some of the further range, this was needed to keep up with the railguns and cannons. Medium snub-nose railgun optimal range by 20%. Accuracy fall off by 20%. This was sort of, I don't understand why they did this one either. Now the cannons, they have a 2.93 kilometer optimal range. The railguns are around about the same. I'm not sure why they needed a little bit more. That might be something to do with the tracking itself. They've added medium autocannon tracking velocity by 10%, and that was already stupidly high. Now I will be able to apply it to frigates, not fully, but somewhat, without the use of a web. I can see that getting changed very soon. Medium strike cannon tracking velocity minus 15%. Now I understand why they did this, because obviously the strike cannons are able to hit smaller targets from very far away, but the tracking isn't the biggest point of what that is. So this might be a good addition. I don't believe that it's going to be that much different considering the range on the strike cannons themselves. So the medium rapid missile launcher damage multiplier minus 15% and flight time minus 15%. That's going to lower their range and it's going to lower their damage, but this does not affect their application. which is what the main issue was. Medium missile launcher damage multiplier by 20%. This is a good addition. They did need some love. They were doing a very little damage. But what the changes need to be done on the missiles, because they've also added medium torpedo launcher damage by 20%. They needed to change the explosive velocity and the explosive radius of these missiles and torpedoes. That's what really is the issue with the medium missiles outside of the rapid missile launchers. Now, the rapid missile launchers as well, they need to apply less to larger ships, or at least not do as much damage to larger ships. What this effectively will do will not change the way that they actually apply to frigates. The frigates will still take maximum damage from the rapid lights, but just do less damage. And now the medium rapids will do even less damage to larger targets, which is what needed to be done. They have the large laser railgun cannon missile damage multiplier by 20%, large torpedo launcher flight velocity by 20%. Now, we haven't really tested out the large stuff yet, but once that comes out, I'm sure there'll be some changes to those because they will already do massive amounts of damage. So the medium drone HP up by 50% and large drone HP up by 100%. This was needed. The drones were too easy to blow up, and drone boats are already quite weakened by their lack of storyline and obviously faction drones. Sensor dampening strength minus 20%. I haven't done too much sensor dampening myself. I mainly use the arbitrator covert op, so I'm the tracking disruptor. Optimal range for energy Nosferatu and energy neutralizer increases with the meta level. This is going to be overpowered as hell, especially if you're going to be nossing from upwards of 20 kilometers. It depends how much they increase it by. The large as standard is a 15 kilometer optimal with a fall off of a stupid amount. So imagine a large Nosferatu hitting upwards of 20-25 kilometers is going to be a bit mental. So now we move on to the adjustments to ship roll bonuses, bonus modules. There are no weapon disruptors or electronic jammers among the new modules. They have been replaced by tracking disruptors and guidance disruptors. Ships affected by this change include the Crucifier, the Griffin, Arbitrator, Arbitrator Covert Ops, Arbitrator 2 Covert Ops, Blackbird, Blackbird Covert Ops, Blackbird 2 Covert Ops, and the Scorpion. Now the tracking disruptors are very, very, very strong. They not only lower the tracking of the weapon, they actually lower the range of the weapon, both optimal and fall off. It is a very, very strong E-War module. So they've added signal disruption and 2 other new skills, so several bonuses skills for disruption ships have been changed. The ships affected by the adjustment include the Maulus, Crucifier, Griffin, Vigil, Arbitrator, Blackbird, Celestis, and Bellicos. Now this is just the skills that the ships are affected by. So basically they've just changed some of the ship roll bonuses that you get for these ships because those do not exist anymore. So the disruption range bonus reduced. Since the disruption modules have a fairly long range, we have cancelled optimal range bonuses for several frigates. Ships affected by this adjustment include the Maulus, Crucifier, Griffin, and Vigil. Now these are weapon disruption modules. And they've taken off the bonuses for the optimal range on the weapon disruption modules, and off of the Scorpion, the Maulus, Crucifier, Griffin, and Vigil. The Scorpion has his load from 25% to 10%. I'm not sure how much of a difference that's actually going to make. Then we have the Jam Strength bonus reduced. They've shortened the cooldown for advanced stealth ships after they decloak and lowered the Jam Strength bonus for several battleships. The ships affected by the adjustment include the Arbitrator 2 Covert Ops, Blackbird 2, Celestis 2, and Bellicos 2 Covert Ops. The Jammer Strength bonus changed from 10% to 7.5%. It was very strong, and they've lowered the cooldown after decloaking, reduced by 50%. So it will now be 15 seconds rather than 30 seconds after a decloak. And the Scorpion has a Disruption Strength bonus change from 15% to 10%. So the Interceptor frigate changes. As the Warp Disruptor becomes available, specialized IC frigates are now able to do what they were supposed to do. Thus, we remove the Stasis Weapon range bonus off of the 8 IC frigates. Warp Scramblers are very capable, so the bonuses for Lock Speed and Warp Scrambler Jammer Strength were also removed. These ships can now increase the range of Warp Disruptors and Warp Scramblers simultaneously, +3 or +5 per level. Ships affected by this adjustment, obviously the Executioner, Condor, Atron, and Slasher, and their tier 2 variants in the Interceptors. The strongest part of the Interceptor is the warp disruption and warp scramblers, and they can literally fit both. And the range of those warp disruptors and warp scramblers are what make these ships so powerful. You can sit outside of the range, you can sit inside the range depending on what weapons the ship has fitted at the time. So removing a stasis weather fire bonus makes no sense to me, and the bonuses for lock speed also make no sense to me, because this is what the ships are there for. They're meant to tackle quickly, they're meant to grab and warp disrupt and warp scramble. Changing it from the lock speed to the range of warp disruptors is just really kind of making them more powerful. So we have some damage and range changes now under number 6. We have the Worm, damage changed from 175 to 200. The Rattlesnake is changed from 425 to 450, which makes no sense to me. If they wanted to up the damage of the Rattlesnake or make it more viable, in my opinion, they would change the drone bonus to all drones and not just large drones. They are going to apply like dog shit to anything smaller than a cruiser. So now we have the Crewer and the Daredevil, damage changed from 20% to 25%. The Ashimu, Vigilant and Vindicator, damage changed from 10% to 12%. Tormentor, Merlin, Incursus and Rifter all had their damage changed from 5% to 7.5%. The Omen cooldown chime changed from -3% to -4%. The Omen Navy issue also had their cooldown changed to -3%. Thorax prototype, damage changed from 4 to 5%. Stabber, fall off range changed from 5 to 7.5% range. Now, I don't get this either with the Stabber and Stabber fleet issue. They already have massive range, they already have great tracking, they already are being used widely across the massive alliances to blob everyone out of existence. To add more range to these is kind of silly in my eyes. It's kind of a weird thing. I'm not sure why they did that. So we have the Ferox, Ferox Guardian and Ferox 2 Guardian with their optimal range changed from 5 to 10%. The Hurricane prototype, damage changed from 3 to 5%. Harbinger prototype changed to 9%. Brutix and Harbinger changed from 5 to 6%. And the Vindicator Stasis Weberfire optimal range changed from 20 to 10%. So the Weberfire will now be less useful on the Vindicator. And everyone knows my opinion on the Vindicator itself. I do not like the ship, and now they've just made it even worse for me. So now we have a couple of bug fixes. They fixed the issue where the 50% warp acceleration of Drariel, Cinnable and Mercurial failed to display. It was working, but it didn't show at the bottom when you were actually warping. I never actually noticed that myself. I've always seen it working, so I'm not sure that was an actual game-wide bug. So now let's talk about some of the good times or bad times for a lot of people who are going to be playing the game. We have the NPC Pirate balancing. So here in the Eve Echoes team, we place great importance on creating an immersive cosmic experience for our players, and effective NPC Pirates add to this experience. Our long-term goal is to minimize the difference between NPC Pirates and actual players. We want to create a universe that feels authentic, where its inhabitants have souls, as well as better, more challenging PvE experience. This update is a small step towards that goal. Of course, as always, we have collected a ton of feedback from players who have played on the test server and made additional adjustments accordingly. It seems that we might have strengthened the pirates a tad too much, as some of the players are now having a significantly harder time farming them. Therefore, we're trying our best to make smaller, subtler changes to make the transition between each update as smooth as possible. So the pre-patch NPC Pirates, now this is the NPC Pirates before. They used the same batch of ships and modules as players, but each enemy always used the same ship and module setup. Due to technical issues, some pirates might spawn without a weapon or without some essential modules for their roles. The fleet configuration for remote repairing, disruption, and electronic warfare pirates is ineffective, resulting in 50% of pirates providing little to no help in combat. Due to technical issues, it was difficult to update new weapons for pirates. The configuration for pirates and anomalies is fixed, resulting in repeated encounters with the same set of pirates. Now, the current system, I will have to say, is very boring, but it's doable. It can be fun for some people who like that sort of thing. I'm not too big of a fan of that type of gameplay. I do it because I need the ISK to fund my PvP endeavors. These changes will be good for the greater whole, but it may push some people away with the difficulty levels that we'll have on the encounters and on the anomalies now. So now what changes we have for the NPC Pirates. Each pirate can use a variety of ships and weapons randomized under specific algorithms. However, each type of pirate is assigned to a certain kind of ship to avoid an awkward situation. For example, having a massive fleet of battleships going for you in an anomaly. We've updated the mechanics to allow all pirates to be able to fulfill their true potential. The new pirates are now able to remote repair one another, and the repair amount has also been adjusted accordingly. We now have more flexibility to adjust their item drops. Again, we implemented these adjustments to pirates in order to provide a more immersive experience for our players. We hope you enjoy these changes. I think mostly people will enjoy the changes. I think the people that want to just sort of AFK, make their ISK so they can do PvP will not enjoy this. The casual players might find it a little bit harder now that the ships are going to be sort of like repped. You're going to have remote repairers on their ships, and they're going to be healing the ships while you are actually fighting them. And there'll be a lot of E-War and warp scramblers, targets, sensor dampeners, and all these kinds of things. So changes to the encounter system. In order to allow players to gradually handle more difficult missions more smoothly, we've made changes to encounters. There's going to be new difficulty for encounters, normal and hard. Difficulty selection now consists of beginner, normal, advanced, hard, and expert. Rebalanced rewards for all new missions. Rebalanced rewards for storyline missions. A lot of them are being lowered and one of them are being raised. Adjusted the combat difficulty of storyline missions. Added an additional wave of enemies to the combat scenarios in every storyline mission. Added a new type of supply box, the module blueprint supply box. Greatly increased the item volume in neutral transport missions. Completing neutral transport missions will grant you module blueprint supply boxes. Reduced the probability of listing transport missions and mining missions on the mission board. Now, there's a few things that I'm a little bit worried about here. Firstly, they haven't mentioned drones at all. Now, will they be in the module blueprint supply boxes, considering you have to build drones, or will they be put into other boxes? There is literally no mention of these here. Now, it seems the module blueprint supply box will only come from transport missions. They will not be in the combat missions. So there will be people that will actually be able to make a decent amount of money doing the transport missions when others will not do them through boredom or because it's not the gameplay they would like to use. And lastly, we have the contract system changes. Added available contracts for corporations and alliances. Thank God it has taken them the god-awful time of 3 months to get this in the game. This should have been here in the beginning. This will help the corporations and alliances out a lot. Contracts can now be shared across all channels, which is another good change. Added a shortcut for contracts that display when selecting an item under inventory. Added a feature to reject private contracts and adjusted the value difference reminder is now a lot more noticeable in order to further reduce the possibility of players being scammed. Scams are a lifeblood, they're a part of EVE. You'll know when it's a scam. Always check if you're selling items or if you are getting the items when you pay the ISK. Make sure that the actual ship that's in the contract is the actual ship you're buying, and you don't have to worry about those scam contracts. If it's being put up in local in Jita 99.9% of the time, that will be a scam. So it's better to avoid local chat scams. That's all we have for today. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is your one-stop shop for EVE Echoes content. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.